everybody, welcome. I am Tiffany with Voices for Independence, Fitness and Activities, and I am here with another episode of Cooking Across America. Tonight's going to be a little different. Usually I do a demonstration and show you the steps in making a dish, but tonight's going to be more of an explanation. I have a wonderful recipe for you, but it took multiple steps, which would be too difficult to show you during our short live here. So I went ahead and prepared most of this recipe ahead of time, and I'm going to go over the explanation of it with you because I think it's a really amazing recipe. It's fascinating and definitely something different than we have done before. So this is Cooking Across America, and this evening we're stopping all the way in Hawaii. Yes, it's kind of an exotic place, even though it's one of our 50 states, and one of their traditional foods, it's called Haupia. Now, Haupia, and I'm going to read it so I don't give you any misinformation. Haupia is a traditional coconut milk-based Hawaiian dessert. Often, it's served at luau's and other parties and events, and lots of times they will make it and put it on top of wedding cakes at traditional Hawaiian weddings. Now, although it's technically considered or called coconut pudding, it's more of a jello consistency is how it's explained. So I'm going to give you the steps in the process of making it, and then I'm going to show you the final step. So the Haupia is actually can be made separately, or you can make it as a layered bar. And so we're going to do the chocolate Haupia pie bar this evening. So this is where it came into multiple steps. If you just want to make the Haupia, the topping, you can do that as well. And when we get to that, I'll show you that step. And I'm going to show you the recipe, though, that looked far more delightful to me than the basic Haupia. I'm not a super coconut fan. I really enjoy unsweetened coconut. But it's not one of my favorite flavors or one of my favorite things I might crave or go towards when I'm looking for a sweet. But this was definitely a wonderful recipe, and it's definitely traditional to Hawaiian culture and dishes. So to make the chocolate bar, though, you want to start with a crust, and the crust consisted of 1 cup of coconut flour, a 1/3 cup of coconut oil, and then 3 tablespoons of agave nectar, which is a liquid sweetener, but you could have used maple or honey here instead. I don't have any agave here in my home kitchen, so I did use some maple syrup in that. And what you're going to do is sift all those items together, add your agave or your liquid sweetener, which again, I use maple, stir it in, and it's going to turn into a wet dough, and you're going to press it into the bottom of an 8-inch square pan. You can kind of see the bottom of it. It is a flour-based crust with a little bit of sweetness to it, and you're going to put that in a 350-degree oven and just let it brown up for about 10 to 15 minutes. When it's done, you're going to take it out and let it cool completely in the refrigerator. Now, the next layer is a chocolate layer, and it's a chocolate pudding layer, actually. It's an actual pudding, and they make it from scratch. Now, I have never made pudding from scratch. I've done the cook and serve, and I've done the instant, but this is legit from scratch pudding. So what you'll need for it is 2 cups of unsweetened almond milk. You'll also need a 1/2 cup of cacao or cocoa powder. You'll want a 1/3 cup of your agave nectar again, or your liquid sweetener. And then you're going to want, in a separate bowl, because we're going to need a thickener, something to thicken the sauce up, because pudding, you know, is a little bit thicker. You're going to want to take an additional 1/2 cup of almond milk and add about 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. So what you do is you take your 2 cups of almond milk in a pot on your stove, and you're going to heat it till warm. And then we're going to add in our cocoa powder, and then we're going to add in that extra almond milk with the cornstarch added in. It will thicken up the sauce that we already have in the pan, so you're going to want to bring that to a boil. As you're whisking it, it will start to thicken up. And then when it's done, and you let it boil for about 2 minutes, stirring or whisking the whole time, what you'll do then is take your pudding off the heat. You can add a 1/3 cup of chocolate chips just to make it a little sweeter. That's optional because there's not a lot of sugar in it, and we're using cacao, which is a bitter chocolate. But you can add those extra chocolate chips, and then you're going to pour them on top of your crust later, as I did so. And then you're going to put it in the refrigerator to set up. And my pudding set up really nice. It looks legit like pudding, so I was happy with that. And now we're on to our final step in this traditional, I almost said holiday, in this traditional Hawaiian dish. We are going to make the haupia part. So for the haupia, what you want to do is take a full can of full-fat coconut milk, and we're going to pour it in a saucepan or a pot. I'm using a skillet here just so you can maybe see a little bit better. And then with that, you are going to bring that milk, coconut milk, to a simmer. Once it starts to simmer, which is a very light boil, you are going to add a mixture of, which is our haupia layer. We are also going to be thickening it again. So in a separate bowl, you're going to want to whisk up a little bit of cornstarch again, which is about 5 tablespoons, and 5 tablespoons of sugar. You can use white sugar. Traditionally, haupia is pure white dessert, but they also gave the option of using coconut sugar, and I thought, why not? This is a coconut dessert. But just know that coconut sugar is a darker brown, so it's going to be more of a brown color consistency to your haupia. So if you want the traditional pure white, make sure you use white granulated sugar in your recipe. So then what you're going to do next is the step I am at. You are going to take and pour your coconut sugar and your cornstarch into your simmering coconut milk on your stovetop. And you're also going to add a little bit of water because it's going to be a little bit thick. And you're going to mix it all in because you do want it to thicken up a little bit. But if it was just all that cornstarch and sugar right into the coconut milk, it would get too thick. And so what you do then is you are going to stir it, whisk it until it becomes to a boil, which is about to happen where we're at now. And then we're going to let it boil for, let me see what they recommend. So lots of times it's important when you're making candies or other baked goods that require it to get up to a certain temperature and then cool back down, like puddings and custards. It's important to pay attention to the amount of time. So I'm just double checking. Yes, you just want to bring it to a full boil. And then it's going to come a little bit translucent. That means you can see through it a little bit. And mine's getting to that consistency. So I'm going to turn it off the heat at this time. And then we're going to pour it right on top of the chocolate pudding layer that is already in the pan that we have here. So we're going to take our chocolate pudding layer and we are going to pour our haupia right on top of it, spreading it out. And then we're going to stick this back in the refrigerator. I'm sorry, I'm holding the skillet in a terrible position for you to see. I guess that happens because I'm left-handed. Us left-handed people are always backwards. So we're going to put the haupia right into the pan on top of our pudding mixture. And then we'll set that down. I'm going to spread that out. Let me get a utensil. We'll spread out the coconut. They call it pudding. And they say it's more of a texture, a jello when it cools. It'll get a little bit thicker than pudding actually will, supposedly, it says. And you'll actually be able to slice it into squares and pick it up and eat it. So we will see. I'm going to stick this back in the fridge. This is something new and creative I've never done before. A traditional dish from Hawaii as we're cooking across America. I hope you enjoyed this recipe tonight. It was a little bit different. It was more of an explanation than a demonstration due to the multiple steps, but I will be sharing the recipe in the comments below so you can recreate it at home. Although there's multiple steps, it was still very easy. I don't choose things that are too beyond our abilities here in our cooking demo. So give it a try and step outside your comfort zone and make something, a traditional dish from another state. Today we're in Hawaii. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and stay with me through the next week or two as we continue our journeys as we cook across America. Thanks guys. Have a great night.